All right, so here we are. Hello, everybody. So we are going to jump into it. If you want to know what's going on, then just read the description. This is not going to last very long. This is not going to be a typical live stream because I actually have to go to work later. But I've been wanting to make this video for a while. I put out a call on Twitter asking for people to contribute points for this video, and then I was feeling bad because I could not find the time to actually make the video. So I was like, well, why don't I just turn it into a live stream? We'll get all of the major points out there. That'll be out there. And then if I want to, then I'll go through and I'll cut it down to a shorter video, add some graphics, pictures of the principles and so forth. So I want to address a couple of things right off before we get into this. So Dan Campbell, thank you for the 20, says, still relitigating this more than 2 years later. AI will take over long before we've had enough of Depp versus Heard. So not to be rude, but people are going to be talking about this for probably decades or hundreds of years. And so on the one, there's a part of me that wants to say, no offense, Dan or Dwayne, thank you, or DEC Observer, say your other name. No offense to you, but I just have to say, like, I started my channel to talk about Depp versus Heard originally. It's something that I have been interested in since it happened. I mean, since she did her walk of shame with the fake bruise or whatever in front of court. So I don't really think that I have to stop talking about it just because the event has now ceased. I mean, you can, take classes in Roman history where people are still debating stuff that happened thousands of years ago. Now, I understand the impulse to want to move on, the idea that in some way keeping this stirred up is a kind of PR impediment to Johnny Depp. I just would say that I feel like Johnny Depp supporters tend to be the ones who let things die down, and then you get inevitably a new round of media reports that are anti-Depp to kind of get things stirred up. Now, where I will agree with you is that I do think this was a small, insignificant podcast. I think that Alexi Mastros and the people who made it, they would like to think that it's making some, giant splash along the lines of that who killed Adnan Syed thing or whatever. I actually never listened to that. But it's not, and it's not getting that much play. And I just Googled Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and I saw that the top stories about Johnny Depp were that he had given his salary in a movie to Heath Ledger's daughter. So I don't know if Johnny Depp's PR people, if he has them, if they planted that or not, but whatever, it's good. That's a good story to be out there right now. And then even with Amber Heard, like nobody's even talking about this podcast really. I've just seen a few articles. So I don't know. I kind of come down where I sort of come down on this is two things. Number one, a sort of a Kanye-esque attitude of like, you do your own thing, don't tell me what to make, which I know you weren't doing there. But I mean, this is what I'm interested in. I've been interested in it back in 2016. Well, honestly, back when he married her, because I couldn't really figure out the relationship. But I've been interested in it for a while. But yeah, I haven't started making videos on it until 3 years ago. But like just to say, well, stop making videos on it. I mean, I mostly have, and that's the thing. Most of my content nowadays is still some Marilyn Manson, although even that's dying down. We'll see what happens this year. But still some Marilyn Manson, and then I'm trying to do, academia and talk about like world events and stuff. Of course, that kicks up its own problems because then people who are fans of mine suddenly discover that maybe we have some political disagreements, and then that brings its own sort of headaches. So what I'm finding out with YouTube is that everything you do, there's always a trade-off, right? There's a cost benefit of an analysis that has to go on there. But let me tell you one thing about why I think that it is perhaps helpful to do what I'm about to do right here and try to do with your help. I think that as much information about Depp versus Heard that there is out there, and as many people, and I've listed them below in the description, as many people who have contributed far more than I have to this cause or this conversation. I do think that there really aren't that many places, correct me if I'm wrong, but there aren't that many places where you can go and you can see someone just laying out. I understand on Reddit or whatever, but like in a video, someone just laying out, okay, these are the most compelling things. And so I do think for posterity's sake, or just so somebody can say in a debate, well, hey, look at this, or what have you. I think that kind of be helpful. And I did that for the Marilyn Manson case. It's not the best video that I've ever done, but if you go to my channel, you'll see that the highlighted video there, it is still that 30-minute video that I made, running through all of it, what at that point was the best evidence in Manson's favor. Since then, Ashley Morgan Smith line also flipped on Evan Rachel Wood, and so that's also very important. But I'm just saying, like, I did that video, and so I'd like to do something comparable for the Depp Amber Heard situation, and then, yeah, probably move on if for no other reason than, if people are getting tired of it, right? But that's the thing, like, people still comment on it. They still watch it. More people are gonna watch this and my other shit. So I'm like, you say you like one thing, but you really like something else is sort of what I'm thinking. But aren't we all like that in our own ways? But I get your point. So let's get to what I think are the most compelling aspects of this. Oh, I have a super chat. Brian W says you certainly have your hands full with this story. Well, and it's not my story in that, and thank you. It's not my story in that I came to it much later than the people that I've listed in the description below this. I don't have time to run through them all, including people that I've had disagreements with, whatever, but they've been covering the story a lot longer. The Manson thing that's where I feel like I've spit off more than I can chew. But there's a lot going on here, and I just felt like I really wanted to tell people, okay, you want, if we need to review this trial, or if some people are saying that we didn't understand it apparently, or that we got it wrong, well, let's actually get into the meat of it. So these are, and by the way, let me just say, I'm going to try to go through. Whoops. I'm going to try to go through your comments like here and there. So keep making them. I appreciate the super chats. I also have my PayPal listed below. It's only because this video is going to definitely be demonetized when I start talking about sexual assaults and these other things. So anyway, if you send me a comment via PayPal, I will read it on the air. So it's not just super chats because YouTube takes so much more of your money, unfortunately. But whatever, anything's good. So let me tell you what my big ones are. I think, and this is not something that gets brought up a lot, I guess because it was not allowed in the trials, was it? But the video where Amber Heard's sister is on camera with bruises, and friends of hers and it's a reality TV pilot that she was shooting. Apparently, a lot of you know this. Amber Heard's sister Whitney, she was shooting a reality TV pilot, and one of the events that happened was that she showed up one day with bruises, and you can see them on camera. I'm going to show you in a minute. It's hard to see depending on the lighting or whatever, but you can see bruises. And the women are gathering around her and saying, I can't believe you let Amber beat your ass and stuff like that. And she's not denying it, as you would if your sister really hadn't beaten your ass, right? You'd be like, oh no, come on, my sister would never do that or whatever. But Whitney's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I'm done talking about it. And so, it's just like it's on camera there, basically, that there were people around Whitney who apparently believed or had been led to believe that Amber was beating her up. Add to that, and so I'm going to show you that in a minute. And I just want to say on top of that, you add to that Jennifer Howell's letter to Whitney, to Amber's sister. Okay. And remember, Jennifer Howell was Whitney's best friend. So Amber's sister's best friend, and also her boss, because Whitney was working for Jen Howell at the museum or whatever, the Art of Elysium, whatever it was. And so Jen Howell apparently at one point, and she writes about this in this letter, at one point, Whitney, Amber Heard's sister, was so terrified of her sister and of the violent nature of her sister that would be directed at her, at Whitney, quite frequently, as well as Johnny Depp and other people. She was so terrified of it that she asked Jennifer Howell if she could move in with her for a while. I mean, that's just a whole other level. Who do you know of that is pathologically terrified of their sister to that degree, that has that kind of a pathological relationship with their sister where they're having to run away? I mean, my God, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then Jen Howell was saying, well, we'll go through the letter in a minute. Okay. But basically backing up what we were seeing then in that pilot for the reality show. On top of that, Dan Campbell says, $10, thank you. In no way, shape, or form am I targeting your podcast. They are partly driven by the constant bickering on social media. On Twitter, they are constantly rehashing the same facts. Yeah, no, I know. I mean, we're stuck in this. Believe me, I'm well aware of it. It feels sometimes like we're stuck in some dystopic nightmare where AI has like just polluted all of our sort of normal, natural human experiences. So I'm with you on the fact that the whole thing is sick. And to whatever extent, by making videos, even getting involved in this, like I'm participating in the sickness, like that is an interesting philosophical question that I just don't have time for at the moment. But I totally get you. And I wasn't taking it as an attack. I just want to explain, because a lot of people raise this same point. And this point, by the way, of whether we should feed into a phenomenon by fighting it and thus drawing attention to it, or whether we should starve it and not talk about it and ignore it. This issue is at the crux of a lot of PR. How do I want to say this? A lot of really tough PR questions that a lot of stars and celebrities who were targeted by these hoaxes are trying to sort out. Because yes, it does seem that in a lot of these cases, whether we're talking about Johnny Depp, we're talking about Marilyn Manson, we're talking about the others, at some points there seems to be a clear fork in the road between, okay, I can fight this and I can talk about it and I can get out there and I can sue and I can raise hell about it and I can point out all the ways that the conventional narrative is messed up, but knowing that when I do that I am also feeding it. Or I can step back passively, perhaps in the most disciplined way, let that thing like a wildfire, let it burn itself out, and then pick myself up and then move through the aftermath of that as best I can. I don't know the answer to that. You obviously see the direction that I tend to take with my stuff as to which way I lean on that, but I don't know. So it is a good question. Okay, to move on though. So let's talk about this. Let's look at, I'm sorry. The other thing I want to talk about, those audios. Okay. I know that Alexi Mostros thought that he had a real gotcha moment when it came to what he found out or what he was presenting about the audios between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard being to some degree edited before they were given to people, various entities to put out online. And so I thought that probably the biggest gotcha moment that Alexi Mostros thought that he had in that recent podcast was when he demonstrated that that the edits to one of these conversations between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard left off a couple of things that in Alexi Mostros's mind seemed to vindicate Amber. And I just want to say several things about the audios. First, I want to address that particular point, okay? The edited audios that were first released and disseminated on platforms, you know what I'm talking about, okay, that I think greatly benefited Depp and I think were a good thing, okay? But there were certain things that were totally inconsequential that were edited out. There was the part that Alexi Mostros talks about where Johnny Depp says, if things get physical, we have to separate. And then there's a pause, and then you hear Amber saying, no, or we don't, or something like that, right? And then saying, no, I'm sorry. Amber saying, I can't promise you that I won't get physical. Okay, that was the edited, originally released conversation. If things get physical, we have to separate. I can't promise that I won't do that again. Sometime, blah blah blah. Right now, the thing that Alexi Mostros was saying was left out was Johnny Depp saying, "Remind me if things get physical between us." Or with us. Somebody remind me the exact terminology, then we have to separate. And then also the other thing that Mostros pointed out is that there was a gap between Depp saying that and Amber then saying, well, I can't promise that I won't get my temper together, myself together, I get, et cetera, et cetera. I get so upset. And so what Mostros was trying to say there, he's claiming that was basically a moment where Johnny Depp admitted that he was committing violence against Amber Heard by saying when things get physical between us or what have you, right? And also that it was deceptive to make it seem like Amber Heard was replying to that. I understand the point that he's trying to make, but the problem is, Alexi Mostros, to make the point that you're trying to make there, you too then are engaging in very selective, out of context representations. Because I notice, Alexi Mostros, that in your presentation of that audio conversation, you leave out the last part of what Amber said when she says, I can't promise that things that I'll always hold it together or things won't always be physical. She goes off on a whole long rant about, God, I get so mad sometimes. I just can't control myself. Well, that made it very, very clear that we're not talking about that. She was not talking about reactive violence. She was not talking about Johnny Depp being abusive and popping off, and her then, just reacting as she claims she had to do. Well, I had to push him at that instance because he was coming after me. No, 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 no. When you say, Amber, but God, I get so mad sometimes or whatever, it's very clear that you are the instigator. And so Alexi Monstros, he just shades that out when he's doing his evaluation there to make it seem like Amber Heard was coming up with some kind of big sort of kind, peaceful, benevolent. Well, of course, but I can't promise that when you attack me, I won't attack you back, right? That's not what we're talking about. It was clear she was the instigator. And the other thing that Alexi Monstros's interpretation of the conversation of the audio leaves out is that there was that one moment where Depp makes the kind of, honestly, it's kind of ambiguous phrasing of if things get when things get physical, if they get physical between us or with us. That's really pretty ambiguous phrasing. And honestly, as Depp has testified before, he and his people, and this is verified, by the way, by listening to other audios in which we can hear Depp's people talking about Amber Heard as the devil. Depp, what was it? Depp's security guard talking about it. Oh God, to calm this woman down, I'm going to have to make a deal with the devil or whatever. I mean, Depp said that they were all so terrified by this woman's temper and what she could do that everybody had to play the game that we all know that you have to play when you're talking to borderlines and people who are psychologically disturbed, of like not provoking them by pointing out the fact that this whole situation and all of the violence and all of the uproar that's been created in this relationship is actually the borderline personality disordered person's fault. But you can't say that. And so you have to kind of soften it a little with these sort of ambiguous, equivocal things. Alexi Monstros needs to listen to the entire, if he wants to get down in the dirt here about, oh, you edited this or whatever, fine. Let's take the entire unedited court released audios, hours and hours of them. And Alexi Monstros, let's do a live stream where you and I go through them. You can have all the opportunity you want, all the time you want to make your case as to how she is the victim in that situation. But you won't be able to make it because when you actually listen to the unedited court released audios, what you hear again and again and again and again is Johnny Depp pleading with her to dial it down. At one point, he talks about how he had to run to like 5 or 6 different bathrooms and 10 different rooms to try to get away from her. And she admits that she kept chasing him. What kind of an abusive situation is this? If you say that you're being abused, but you keep chasing your abuser around. I've never heard of that. That's insane. And at the very most, all that Amber Heard could argue with even a halfway straight face, the very least that she could argue with a straight face would be that it was a mutually toxic relationship. I'm not even saying I think that it was a 50-50 thing, okay? I'm not one of those people. I think there was one clear instigator, one clear problem, one clear, frankly, deranged predator in that relationship named Amber Heard. And then you had this guy who I'm sure had his buttons, and we heard it, at times on the audios, had his buttons pushed to the extent that he would lash out verbally or he would throw something at something. Not at her. Okay? But let me just say this. Let's just say that I were, for the sake of argument, I were willing to accept Amber Heard's equivocal presentation of, well, it was mutually toxic. But that's not what she was presenting to the public. She was trying to build an entire activist career, frankly, alternative career, or at least a significant hobby, an entire activist platform on the idea that she was this poor, oppressed, beaten down, abused woman who was completely put through the shredder by this sultan, this king of Hollywood, and his big Hollywood machine. And that is just not, there is no fucking evidence to show that. There is none. And Alexi Monstros can't dig it up. All he can find is one place on the whole fucking set of hours and hours of audios of her being a fucking maniac and a nightmare. All he can find is one little place where Johnny Depp says, when things get violent between us, just please, we gotta stop. We gotta stop. Yeah, that sounds like a real monster there. to use your favorite term. Anyway, and the thing is with Amber that I wanted to remind you, and this gets me into my third point, and then we're going to listen to some audios, and then we're going to get into other people's points, because I mean, y'all, you posted so much stuff on the Twitter. I just want to put the Twitter up here in a minute and just read through all the points that everybody posted. But in a minute, we're going to listen to some audios, we're going to watch some videos or whatever. But I just want to point out that in one of these audios, and I thank you to the people who helped me find this on Twitter when I asked for it, but in one of these audios, Johnny Depp is apparently, and we'll listen to this next, Johnny Depp is apparently wanting to go inside and meet with his daughter, Lily Rose. Was it her recital? Someone, you can tell me in the comments. And Amber Heard was freaking out, of course, because she has all of these jealousy and attachment issues and what have you, and she was not letting him go in. And so all of you know what it's like to be stuck in an argument with someone where where you're trying to leave, or you've got something that you need to do, and that person just won't let it go, and they get into more and more histrionics and acting like, oh my God, if you walk away, it's just, this is the end, right? So she starts putting on this show, or maybe genuinely freaking out. I don't know. The biggest mystery for me will always be is to what degree is this woman crazy, and to what degree is she calculating? I think both. But she starts freaking out, and here's what's interesting. In the audio, she starts screaming. Stop pushing me. Stop pushing me. Stop poking me. Stop throwing me up against a wall. She starts using all of these terms denoting violence, pushing, poking. And yet, what you find out in the audio, because Johnny Depp at one point says, I'm not touching you, I'm not pushing you. And then she says, yeah, but when you say this, when you act this way, it's like you're pushing me up against a wall. So what we find out about this lady is that she, like a number of people with her particular psychological pathology, I have to say, she equates verbal fights, or even because Johnny Depp was being so calm, even verbal disagreement, as physical violence. That is how it codes for her and a lot of people like her. And that is how she expresses it. So I do not trust this woman's perspective on anything that went on in the relationship, because there are too many indications, showing that she herself was a violent person with a deep psychological pathology who terrorized the people around her, including her own sister. And by the way, her ex-wife, Tasha Van Ree, because don't you remember, and here's my final piece of compelling evidence to start us off, don't you remember Amber Heard was arrested in a Washington airport for beating on her wife? She was arrested. There's audio of that too. It got dismissed because it was out of jurisdiction, it was out of state, and so the prosecutor didn't want to deal with, a misdemeanor assault thing. Particularly since apparently, I guess Amber Heard, was going to make a big issue out of the fact that, it's because we're lesbians. That's what Tasha said later is, it was a homophobic police officer who arrested us. Except it turned out that the police officer was a gay woman. I mean, that was just, was that not the best? When Amber Heard's arrest record comes out, and we see, and the tapes, actually, the tape of it going through court, and we find out that she, not Johnny Depp, has a domestic violence arrest for a significant other. And then her victim, who's apparently was so cowed by her, I don't know how Tasha Van Ree is today, but apparently was so cowed by her and scared of her even back then, that Tasha made a statement saying that she thought it was a homophobic cop, and then it turns out it was a lesbian cop. You went to her Facebook and it had like the rainbow flag and LGBT. It's great. It's great. God has a sense of humor sometimes, I do think. Meanwhile, you've got all of Johnny Depp's exes affirming in writing or in court, Kate Moss, Vanessa Paradis, that he never hurt them. You've got all of these people, Amber Heard, we found out that she hired a private investigator to try to dig up all this dirt on Johnny Depp, and it turns out the private investigator couldn't find anything. Everybody just talked universally about what a great guy he was. Meanwhile, you've got the Elon Musk book, this official authorized biography of Elon Musk, where Elon Musk and his family members talked to the author Walter Isaacson, where Amber Heard is depicted as being a force of ultimate toxicity and chaos. and Elon Musk describing their relationship as brutal, and Kimball Musk comparing Amber Heard to Elon Musk's NPD father, who doesn't he have a terrible criminal record too? And I don't even know. There are just so many reasons not to believe this woman, and none of them were addressed in that silly bot podcast that Alexi Mostros did. So I want to play a few things for you. All right. And then we're going to talk about the many, many other things that people have pointed out. I mean, we haven't even just barely scratched the surface, and we're not going to have time. But okay. It is kind of hard to hear on things that I share on StreamYard. And so you might have to, when I show you video or whatever audio, you might have to turn it up and then turn it back down. Okay. All right. So let's start with the audio where she is freaking out at Depp because he wants to go in and talk or see his daughter.
Me so much stress when you leave.
Let me go, and you go, and I'll speak to you in a couple hours. Okay? Okay?
Stop. Okay.
Why are you saying stop?
Because
May I go?
Please, it causes me so much stress when you leave, when you walk away from me with that. It's like you don't understand how much worse you're making this.
I can't believe this.
Please, you're making it worse for me.
Okay, I'm sorry for you.
Please, I'm only trying to tell you so that you know you're causing me immense stress right now when you walk away like that. There's no reason to be mad.
Well, then say goodbye. I haven't walked away. You're not saying goodbye. You won't let me fucking leave. Let me leave.
Stop rushing me! Stop pushing me in the corner and then poking me with a stick and then saying, why are you saying the words you want me to say? Stop poking me! Stop rushing me! Stop throwing me against the wall! What? You don't like that wall? You don't like the fucking wall? Stop pushing me!
Remember? I'm not pushing you. I'm rushing you. I said, I need space. I don't want this conversation anymore right now. I need space. And I will take my space. Whether you like it or not, I will take it. And you will take your space. But if you keep halting
I'm not doing anything
this and continuing
I'm
with
not
the rhetoric.
continuing it. I'm begging you to stop.
I don't. Okay, stop.
I'm
stopped. Stop. Now I have to go. Okay? So we will speak to each other in a couple of hours. Okay? I'll give some kind of revelation makes you feel better. You know? I hope I do too. But we'll just see when I get home. We'll just talk, or we won't talk, or we'll finish this, or we won't finish it. But this is not love. This is not happiness. This is not.
Please stop doing this. Please, you're causing so much fucking stress. I'm gonna die at this age. I'm gonna fucking die. You're causing me so much stress. Please stop. Please, I feel like I have heart attacks almost every day. Please stop. Please stop doing it. Please stop. He's so fucking mean.
Why are you with me?
Bully. Stop. Please stop. I've been begging you not to fight. I just said, can we please have a normal argument? Just even a normal conversation, like a normal argument. And for the last hour, I've been begging you to please just leave it at that. Let's just go on with our night. I would have been able to come in with you. We would have been able to let it go in a few minutes. It would have been fine. If we allowed ourselves to have fucking normal arguments. Please, you're killing me with this. You're killing me. You're fucking killing me. Fuck.
Oh my
Sean, could you,
Sean,
please, I want you to just go. I want you to take your medicine or whatever. I'm sorry that I've upset you.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I'm ready to go. Thank you so much. I'm really ready.
There are so many things. I'm sorry. So many things to point out there. Okay, first of all, I loved it when she said, I just wanted to have a normal, and what she was trying to say is a normal conversation. But of course, she slid up. She's like, I just want to have a normal argument. That's exactly the point, lady. He had been arguing with you for it sounds like a while. and he was ready to get away from it. But that's how pathological she is. She would keep saying, and I know a lot of you have listened to the extended, uncut, unedited audios, and you know that so many of their conversations consist of him trying to plead with her and explain why at times when things get heated, he wants to get away, and she literally calling him a coward for that, saying, well, but you don't want to stay and fight for us. Fight for us. This is a woman who equates fighting with love. And look, it's no wonder because we know what she grew up with. And Jennifer Howell, in her letter to Whitney, she talked about how she knew that Whitney and Amber had been through hell with their father. And so, there's a part of me always in these situations that thinks that the ultimate blame lies with God or something, or nature, and not with the individual human. But that's like a metaphysical, philosophical conversation. In this situation, looking at these two people, there's clearly one person that is the instigator and the problem. To whatever degree it's their fault or it's not their fault, but it's certainly not Johnny Depp's fault, and he was the victim in this. Now, the other thing that I thought was interesting in this is that she turns on a dime when it's time to bring Sean into it. So Sean was like, what, like the security, right? And so Johnny is kind of like, come over here, basically kind of handle this while I get out of here. And notice how she completely changes, and it's so bizarre. Yes, Sean, I'm great. I'm ready now, Sean. What the fuck? When I heard that, I was like, what? So this is just crazy. I just don't know what to tell you. And so look, if there's anyone who did watch did listen to the Alexi Mostros podcast, and you were caught off guard a bit by the whole point that he was making about the way that the initially released audios had a bit of editing, listen to the full audios, because I've listened to all of them. I've forgotten a lot of it too. I've had to go back and remind myself, re-listening to them. But listen to the full audios. They're still available, that were released through the court, unedited. And you're just going to see like a pattern, a very well-established pattern of Johnny Depp trying to calm things down, trying to get away, pleading with her, trying to explain why he needs to get away, why he needs time, why she needs to calm down, and then her just being like that. She's even faking throwing up. Did you hear that bleh at the end? She's like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Like faking that she's actually getting physically nauseated. I wonder if she ever fake vomited with Johnny Depp. Like, because it sounds like that's kind of what she was trying to do there. I wonder if she ever like got so worked up trying to pretend that he was giving her, a nervous breakdown, that she actually fake puked. That's a weird tactic. But that was strange, that gagging sound there. So, I would respect Alexi Mostros if he would play that and then explain it to me. Like, that's actually all I need. I just need you to play that segment, Alexi Mostros. I need you to play that particular segment that we just listened to, and explain to me who's the crazy one in there. And we know there are a lot of others. There's one of them, I'll try to pull it up in a second. There's one of them where you can actually hear her on the tape getting physically aggressive. She's like, "All right then. Well, let's just do everything you want. Let's just be perfect then. Let's just be perfect." And then there's like this crackling sound as she's like picking up the cell phone, and like all of this like sound of something getting like hit around and knocked around, and her just like on a dime, just suddenly getting crazy. Man. Dan Campbell, I sent you a PayPal, Kurtz. Oh, I just saw that, Dwayne. I was gonna say it's probably you. Thank you so much, and also thank you to Lisa. I don't know if you want me to say your last name, Lisa. I'm sorry, I never know. But anyway, you're and always appreciated. Okay, you said sorry. What's that thing behind you on top of the bed? Maybe it's just been a long day, but it keeps moving from peripheral vision to the center. Are you on LSD? Because things do move around. This is something that my sister painted in an art class. It's so random, but it's just something to stick on the walls. I don't normally film in here, as you may know. I will do the live streams in here. But I don't normally, because the acoustics are a little better, but I don't normally film in here. So that's why it looks kind of random. And there's like a black fan sitting on the bed. But anyway, no, it looks to be some like bottles in that painting. I can see how it would be a little bit trippy for you, though, because it's sort of abstract. It's more abstract art, right? So it could kind of move around. I don't know. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you a lot, and your comments on Twitter. I see your comments as the DEC person, the observer or whatever at times. Okay. All right. So, oh, a fan. Oh, you're asking about this? Yeah, the black thing. Oh, yeah, it's just a fan. If it's just a portable fan. If I pick it up, you'll see it, but which is kind of distracting. Sorry, I keep moving that. Okay. Who's this? Melvin Dobbs says, I don't know how much of their disputes had something to do with JD's drug abuse. She probably cared more for him than his rock star friends. She cared more for him than his rock star friends? So that's why she constructed a giant hoax to try to destroy his life, or she wrote that op-ed, or was that just or she created basically an entire campaign against him and got him fired from stuff? I just wow, with friends like that. Yeah, I know. He did a lot of drugs. He had a substance abuse problem. I get it. It's not appealing. But the problem is, Melvin, is we don't have evidence of him beating her. I know we have her therapist notes based on stuff that Amber said, and let me just tell you that people with these types of pathologies, they lie to their therapist all the time. Oftentimes, if you go to a therapist of someone with a personality disorder and you talk to them, and this is one of the weaknesses of therapy, you talk to them about the people in their life, you're going to hear all these horror stories about how everyone in their life is against them and is so difficult, and oh, she said this to me and he did this to me and whatever, and then it turns out it's just pathology that they're just feeding the therapist. But anyway, okay, next. Let's go to this video where people are remarking on Whitney Heard, Amber's sister, having been beat up by Amber. One second. Here we go. And again, sound might not be good, so beware.
Did you get in a fight or something?
Oh, thank you. Got into an altercation.
Proof, say Johnny Depp's lawyers, that Amber Heard attacked her sister.
I can't believe Amber beat your ass.
Unaired reality TV footage sees Whitney Henrique repeatedly avoid questions about a fight.
Okay, did you really start the fight with your sister, or did she start it? For real, for real, for real.
We're not gonna talk about that.
She really did whoop your butt.
Mr. Depp's legal team say it shows her with marks to her chest and arm. They accused Ms. Henriquez of lying in her evidence the day before when she said Amber Heard had never been violent towards her. The video was released anonymously late Thursday evening to Johnny Depp's lawyers. He's suing the publishers of the Sun newspaper over an article describing him as a wife beater. The footage is crucial, Mr. Depp's legal team say, because they're arguing that Amber Heard was the violent one during the couple's relationship. Ms. Heard's sister says...
Okay, so we get the point there. Now, I wanted to take this opportunity to look at the letter by Jennifer Howell, Whitney Heard's former best friend and boss, and it seems all around really great person. I mean, no one has ever been able to come out with where I've seen anything negative on Jennifer Howell. She seems to be among people that I've talked to, like in the LA scene and stuff, like universally liked or loved. So anyway, one of the things one of the things that has come out in the last many years, actually, this has been going on, is this letter that she wrote to Whitney to try to get through to Whitney about Amber. And I understand that you probably can't see this. Oh, here we go. It's kind of hard to see, but you can look it up yourself. If you Google it, you'll find it. But I'm just going to read the parts that are highlighted here. Someone has highlighted. Thank you. And I think that that'll give us a good sense of things. Let me make this full screen. One second. Okay. So she says the reason, and again, this is Whitney's best friend and boss, who is apparently was very familiar with what had been going on with Amber and her sister and with Amber and Johnny. I'm just reading the highlighted parts. The reason this letter is so important to me is that you, my chosen sister, are so important to me, and I am hoping that the truth will set you free from a lifetime of abuse and being forced to live someone else's life, that is Amber's life. In other words, it seems like, from things that numerous people have said, that Amber's sister Whitney just basically lives in her shadow and basically sort of just is happy to take the crumbs from Amber's table. And so, she gets to go to, or she got to go to celebrity things, hang out with Amber, enjoy some of the financial fruits of Amber's success, maybe even get that reality show pilot that went nowhere. It's a twisted codependent relationship. And in return, Amber gets a kind of a lackey and someone who will be in it with her no matter what kind of dastardly behavior Amber engages in. But anyway, continuing on. She says, I have never been more upset during any of this drama than I am right now at the thought of Amber asking you to leave Gavin and Hunter, her husband and child, to go to London and entangle you in all of this. So remember, Amber was apparently pressuring her sister to go and commit perjury in the UK trial. She writes to Whitney, I beg you to recant and for once in your life, think of yourself first. You have an incredible man, amazing child. If anyone would ever put you in a position to risk that, they do not love you. She says, losing your friendship is something that I'm willing to risk if it frees you, Hunter and Gavin, from all of this and allows you to build your family and your life for you and you alone. So continuing on, she says, and by the way, what Jennifer Howell is trying to do here, she's trying to let Whitney know that Jennifer Howell, has talked to Johnny Depp's attorney. And basically, she's letting her know that she's going to tell the truth. And so she's wanting to give her a heads up in a heartfelt letter. You know how it is. Look, if you've ever had a friendship that at some point, a deep friendship that has gone sour at some point because you had to take a stand against someone else, or you had a significant difference over something, then you know that there are nice ways to do that and not so nice ways. And the not so nice way is just to ghost somebody. The nice way is to talk to them or to express it in a heartfelt letter. And so that's what she's doing. It's basically, I see this, let me just tell you, I see this letter as Jennifer Howell's Hail Mary pass to salvage Whitney, to salvage her relationship with Whitney and to save Whitney. It's a Hail Mary pass. So she says, the things that came up during the deposition with Adam are as follows. The incident on the stairs, that was one of the events that led you to ask to move in with me. You told me and others on the staff that you tried to stop Amber from attacking Johnny and nearly got thrown down the stairs. At no point in time was it ever said to me that Johnny had hit Amber, nor abused her in any way. Okay, next point. And she also says that her own father reminded her this morning that she had told him that, quote, Whitney had moved in with me because she was terrified of her sister, unquote. She also apparently attested in deposition to the fact that, quote, while you were living with me, you told me Johnny kept checking in to see how you were doing and that he called you sis and you called him brother. You said to me on multiple occasions that you did not know why Johnny, was staying in the relationship, nor why he was putting up with Amber's abuse. You shared with me the damage endured by both of you as children and the injury you had suffered from Amber, both psychologically and physically. Next point, when you came back from New York, I believe it was the Tribeca Film Festival, you shared a premiere, by the way, that she went to with Amber. You shared with me and everyone in the office that Amber freaked out, attacked you, and threw a wine glass full of red wine at you in the elevator. Next. While Amber and Johnny were in Australia, you were in the office sitting in the black and white chairs near the kitchen. I love how she gets the chairs in there, there too. Like, she's like, I remember this. As opposed to Amber Heard's weird fake details that she gave in her own testimony. Well, we'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, while Amber and Johnny were in Australia, you were in the office sitting in the black and white chairs near the kitchen and loudly proclaimed, quote, oh my God, she has done it now. She has cut off his fucking finger, unquote. So you got Jen Howell and these other witnesses, people that Whitney worked with, Whitney Amber's sister, and Whitney gets a call from Australia. Apparently, Amber telling her that she had cut off Johnny Depp's finger, which of course Amber Heard denies. Amber Heard's story, of course, is that Johnny dragged her through glass or she got all cut up or whatever. And of course, there were no medical records validating that. But guess who does have medical records showing that his finger was cut the fuck off? Johnny Depp. Okay. Next point, in regards to the extramarital affairs, I only have information you and others shared with me. It is my understanding all of that is completely irrelevant other than James Franco giving a sworn testimony to what he did or did not see on Amber's face the day in the elevator. I told Adam that if James were asked anything at all, I know without a shadow of a doubt that he would speak the truth. Okay. Next point. When Elon Musk came up in the deposition, I shared only what I know from you and Paige. Paige is Amber's mother. When I came to see you and meet Hunter is when this conversation with you and your mom took place. I told them I had been told that Elon had gifted Teslas to Amber, but Amber found out that they were bugged. I was told that Amber said he was controlling, abusive, that Elon was controlling, abusive, and that she was in a legal battle with him over the rights to embryos they had created together, which, by the way, Elon Musk's father, when interviewed for that authorized biography on Elon Musk, also makes a comment about Elon Musk being kind of trapped in the relationship with Amber because, you know, when you have a child with someone, and he trails off. Okay. Moving on. I mean, the Elon stuff is interesting, but I just want to move on to the meat of this, which again is how Amber was a terror. The other things that were discussed were the character reference letters that I wrote on behalf of Amber for her volunteering with the charity, trying to explain at that point why did she write a character reference letter. And then she said, your thoughts on Rocky freeloading off of Amber and then freeloading off of Johnny and your overall thoughts on Rocky. So she's also talking here about what reason certain people like Rocky might have had to apparently collude with Amber Heard on various occasions early on in this charade. And remember, Johnny said that when he had gone over to meet Amber on that one occasion, that Rocky had been basically like hiding in wait for him, for the, sort of staged altercation. So look, you have this disinterested party. No one has ever in any way suggested that Jennifer Howell got anything from siding with Johnny Depp in any way, monetarily, gifts, anything. And she was already a very well-connected person because the foundation that she runs is all about getting celebrities and celebrity artists in LA hooked up with this charity work. Hence why she had at one point recognized Amber Heard when Amber Heard was a celebrity with a better reputation. So we've got this disinterested woman basically validating all of these things that Johnny Depp has said about Amber Heard and that his side has said about Amber Heard. We've got the sister on camera basically laughing off or trying to shrug off the bruises that the women around her say she said Amber gave her. We have Amber on these audios with Depp, the full unedited audios, repeatedly behaving in ways to make it very clear who the real victim and the real abuser were. And then, of course, we've got Amber's arrest, her prior arrest for domestic violence, beating on her own wife in the airport. By the way, let's listen to a little audio just to validate this. It did, like I said, end up getting dismissed because it was out of state. The DA didn't want to deal with it. It was a misdemeanor thing. But it did happen. 1 second here. I'm going to call it up.
I walked out of the courtroom, Your Honor. Stephanie said on behalf.
Dropped. You can hear very meek little voice.
State of Washington versus Amber Van Ree, cause number CPS 013529. Stephanie Sato on behalf of the state. Ms. Van Ree is present in custody with counsel, and I didn't get your name.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Michelle Shaw, and I apologize. I walked out of the courtroom, Your Honor.
The state is declining to file charges at this time.
Because you're in California, it would provide you any relief from the DUI designation from the law.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any questions about that?
No, Your Honor.
Free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.
No, Your Honor, I'm just a little old innocent. I just got a little upset. We were just two lesbians, having a lesbian moment. And, this big, bad, homophobic cop. Anyway. Yeah, so I posted on Twitter. Oh, by the way, someone asked about my shirt there. Thank you for pointing out to me. So I made this shirt. Here, let me do a tiny Marilyn Manson / Tim Pool detour. For those of you who might not have been tracking my work lately, I went on Tim Pool's show, and he's definitely the biggest show that I've ever done. I was really happy about it. And yeah, we argued about some things that we disagree on. because he definitely has his views and I have my views, and it was interesting to sort of get in the mix and really have some philosophical debates actually at times. Um, but anyway, I went on his show and I wanted to well, let me just be honest about something. I was not sure if we were going to talk about Marilyn Manson, if we were going to get to talk about Marilyn Manson, because I was afraid that he was having me on the show. I mean, well, not afraid. Like I wanted to go on the show. It was amazing, but I was also though a bit afraid that he was not going to talk about the Manson stuff and was going to focus more on pretty much all on the political stuff that I've been doing, or the videos that I've been putting out about academia and my time, in the profession and all that. And so, to be honest with you, one of the reasons why I made this shirt is that I wanted to have something to sort of push the issue a little more. And he ended up giving Shane Cashman, who's also passionate on this topic, Shane Cashman and me about 20 minutes at the end to really get into the Manson stuff and the Me Too stuff. And I talked a bit about Depp as well, but mostly Manson. But that's one reason why I wore this. I made this shirt is because I wanted to have sort of a visual way of pushing that. And then the other thing is, apparently, if you wear something like this, then the AI, like the YouTube AI or whatever, that when it does its scan, so to speak, then it helps it to code more for Marilyn Manson stuff. So I'm just randomly wearing it today. There's not really a reason, but that's why I made the shirt. So, but you too can make the shirt. It is literally just some iron-on letters. And when I went on Tim Pool, I also wore a long-sleeved black scoop-necked undershirt, which looked really cool with the black lettering. But it's kind of hot today, and I've got the sun coming in. But yes, you can just make it yourself. Just get some little letters that look like that and a t-shirt you like and just iron it on. The reason why I ironed this on instead of getting a fancier Marilyn Manson shirt or a more graphic shirt is because I also did not want to look like a fan, honestly. And so I was like, I want to wear a shirt with his name on it, but I want it to be like the most understated looking Marilyn Manson shirt that I could find. And the great thing is it ended up blending in with Timcast's aesthetic. And so I thought that was kind of worked out. But anyway, that's a long answer there. But yeah, it was cool to go on Tim Pool's show. And so the link is still, I cut a little bit of it actually and put it out on my channel, but the link is still on my Twitter. And so you can find it and look at the whole show. We got into some stuff for sure. Dan Campbell says, are you and Tim, thank you for all the super chats, by the way. Are you and Tim going to pool your resources? Haha. Well, I mean, that that would be a huge, giant step up for me. So I kind of have to hope and pray. Perhaps one day I get asked back or he notices me again. Just make sure that you are courteous with Tim. Yeah, we had I know you're joking, but we had a really courteous conversation. Actually, there was that one moment. I think the only truly meme-worthy moment, which was really funny, was when the camera caught me in an expression that it really was pretty dramatic because I couldn't believe what Tim had just said to me. We were having a debate over children and the pressure and debating whether people should feel more pressure to have kids or whether people who, society is missing the buck with low birth rates and all of that. And a lot of you who follow my stuff, you know that as someone who does not have children and does not plan to have them, that I have views about not about people who want to, but just that I think, it's just people do what they want. Let's not worry so much about these population issues or birth replacement theory or it's a woman's role to have lots of kids. I just think it's that's a little bit short-sighted and authoritarian in its own way and too much of a burden to place on the individual. But anyway, so at one point he was trying to tell me that women naturally, if modern society didn't interfere with them basically and distort their views on motherhood and their experience of motherhood, that women naturally would want to have 15 kids like they did back in the old days. And that basically like we've taken a wrong turn in post-industrial society of smaller families. And so I basically expressed to him incredulity at the fact that he would think that a woman given freedom to do otherwise would want to give birth 15 times. And at that point, his response to me was, "You are completely wrong." And so when he said I was completely wrong, I was just sort of amazed. And so, but the look on my face, and I kept it for a long time too. it wasn't just like this, but it was like I continued to stare at him like this as he continued speaking, just because I was still trying to figure out if he was seriously asserting that he thought women wanted to have 15 kids. Anyway, but that was the that 25 kids were enough to have farming labor. Yes, I know, but we don't all need to be farmers now. And we have machines. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, NZZ, whoever the fuck you are. Okay. Back to what people came here for, though. Let's go to my Twitter. The last thing I want to do, and then I'm going to let people go, because I'm really not trying to do like a long-winded thing here. I was just tired of seeing all the Alexi Mostro stuff out there and I just wanted to put a video out that would say, wait a minute, this is bullshit. Let's get back to what really matters. So I'm going to go to my Twitter right now where I talked about, or I'm sorry, I posted the other day a request for people to list the most compelling points in Johnny Depp's favor to try to remind us really of just how much evidence and how many points in his favor there actually are. And so I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're not going to have time to oh, 1 second. One more thing. Dan Campbell says, my wife and I never wanted to have kids and are grateful now. By the way, that shirt accentuates your deltoids. Do you do a lot of push-ups or handstands? This is the last irrelevant comment. Well, I mean, if you keep giving me super chats, I'll take the irrelevant comments. This is called being a working class woman. No, I waitress. It's kind of a joke actually on not waitressing, but as a joke, but my waitressing and the response that it gets by Amber stands is kind of a joke on Twitter, because apparently a number of them think that I'm doing it because I can't find anything else to do or whatever. I mean, I'm doing it because I need money, but but anyway, but they'll post things like like some of them were posting in response to a challenge that I gave to Alexi Mostros the other day. I said, Alexi Mostros, let's do a live stream together and let's go through all the evidence and we'll talk about it. And some of the Amber stands were saying, oh my God, you are like a potato. They use some kind of weird analogy, but you're like a potato compared to him. And they're like, you have to waitress because you can't even be a real journalist. And I was like, basically like, well, you kind of missed the boat on my entire like professional resume, but I don't have time to get into it. Anyway, but no, this is from waitressing to answer your question. Okay, let's look at the Twitter. So I'm going to share my screen. The Twitter X. I guess I should start saying X now, but it'll always be Twitter in my mind. So I don't know. Okay. So we're not going to have time to go through all of them, and most of them I'm just going to name them off. If you want to say more in the comments, you can, and then I'm going to check my PayPal because I know I have some comments here too, and I want to get to y'all. But let's just go through, and I'm going to ignore the stuff that I have that I've already listed. But let's just go through here. So this guy says the multiple altered photos she lied about on the stand, the evidence that wasn't there. Why she took pictures of mirrors but not her severely sliced up feet. So let's just remind us what he's talking about here. She claimed on various occasions that she sustained very serious injuries like sliced up feet from broken glass, and also that he raped her with a bottle and just stuff that would really fuck your shit up. She claims that she sustained these injuries, but no medical records, didn't go to the doctor, didn't take any pictures. Instead, we get these kinds of weird pictures of things that look not like real bruises, that look faked. Some of them, it's not even like you're not even seeing anything. But what he's pointing out here is she took pictures in Australia. She took a picture of the mirror because she wanted to show that crazy Depp was scrawling stuff on the mirror. Why not take pictures of your sliced up feet? Yes, excellent point. Why take a picture, some ambiguous picture of some scrawlings on a mirror, but not your feet that have just been sliced the fuck up? So yes, great point. I would also point out, by the way, what about her, claiming that she had a bruise and doing her walk of shame for, TMZ when she got the TRO or applied for the TR or what have you. And then we see her later, skipping down the road with Raquel, no makeup on, completely like no marks on her. We see her at the party that she went to, with Amanda de Cadenet. And of course, those photos had to end up being taken down. And she did have her hair, remember, strategically like combed in front like this. But I mean, still, you could see there was no bruise there. But of course, those pictures were taken down because they discredited her. But yes, no compelling physical evidence from her, and all this contradictory evidence with photos. Okay, so Becky made an entire thread. So in answer to my query, Becky has an entire thread here. We don't have time to go over all of them, but she talks about various inconsistencies. So photo shoot here, you can see the pictures. Amber claimed to be severely injured and wearing makeup. We had the whole Milani Cosmetics makeup kerfuffle where she entered an item into evidence, and then it turns out the item did not exist prior to 2017, and then she changed it to make it look like, oh no, that was just prop. Yes, of course, the whole history we talked about it, domestic abuse, what happened with Whitney. The fact that Amber lied about the end of the relationship. She claimed that she left him. But it was Depp apparently who said it was over. Also, of course, we have those documents. We have that letter from Amber's attorney basically trying to extort more money out of Depp in exchange for Amber dropping her antics. That was damning. Some of you have brought that up. That letter from Amber's attorney to Depp or Depp's attorneys, absolutely, absolutely damning. Moving on. Here it is. Yes, divorce demands. She claimed, of course, afterward that she wanted nothing from him. But then, of course, yes, here's the letter that we got from, Spectre? Anyway, yeah, absolutely insane. Okay, then she claimed on audio that she got the TRO against Depp purely because she was wanting to have leverage against him. And her attorney had told her she might be kicked out of her house in the divorce, even though Depp had asserted apparently over and over that he was not going to do that to her and not put her in some horrible position. But anyway, it was very clear. What I'm trying to get at here, what these comments are getting at here, is that it's very clear that in the early initial stages of this hoax, that Amber was not really thinking through things beyond just trying to get leverage against him and basically trying to, like, whatever term you want to use, blackmail, extortion, what have you, and having leverage in her divorce. And then, of course, what came after that was then the next leg of it, which was the desire to create an activist platform based on these false accusations against Depp. And I just want to point this out. I know some of you have heard this before, but I think that we need to hear some of this speech again. This is one of the speeches that Amber Heard gave against Depp. One second. Okay, so I'm not going to play the whole thing, but just understand here what I'm about to play for you, that this is what started it, okay? It is not that Johnny Depp fans started picking on Amber in the media or wanted to start a war against Amber for no reason. What happened was Amber began again and again and again with more and more brazenness to bring this subject up in public to try to become an activist on the back of it. And so she was doing PSAs. She was doing speeches like this. Yes, she did the Washington Post editorial where it was quite obvious to anyone with half a brain that she was talking about Depp. So Amber was the one who was exploiting this situation. And then Johnny, in self-defense, in legal self-defense, he sued the Sun, he sued Amber. Okay. But let's not pretend that she didn't start this. I want you to listen to some of this speech in which she describes her version of things with Johnny Depp and what it means to her as an activist.
Despite private in principle and at work, in our schools and in the boardrooms, in our pay and our physical safety, in public and in private, in principle and in practice, no matter our age, our race, creed, color, or class. A few years ago, I, like you, awoke to a world that was starting to catch flame. It started slowly. I arose from my bed one day, a few years into my own private battle, and I smelled the smoke. I had for years walked tired and weary feet into battle every single day alone, privately, longing for a different kind of world than the one in which I used to live. One that reminded me that despite all that I had done and fought for, all I had said and survived for before and through my very public, heart-wrenchingly lonely battle for justice,
Shut up.
that I, a woman, would never truly see it. That my voice couldn't fully count. That despite what it took for me to stand up and finally raise.
That's all I'm going to play. How can she assert that her voice doesn't count when, like, everywhere we see this, she's popping off about Johnny Depp? It seems like your voice is getting heard everywhere. Meanwhile, when Johnny Depp would speak up for himself or would try to speak up for himself in those interviews, in the magazine articles that he did and all of that, and it's like, oh, look at how stupid he comes across in this. Oh, look at how crazy he is. Here's a GQ article or a Rolling Stone article about how crazy Johnny Depp is. And meanwhile, Amber Heard getting feted and celebrated around town, around the country as this great survivor. Hey, it certainly provided a great blueprint for Evan Rachel Wood and people like her. But I want to point out one thing. Has anybody noticed this? Probably somebody has. This sounds like something like Tug would notice or something. So I guess I'm probably not new to this. But you know what I noticed there? Her phraseology and the emphasis on things that she emphasized in terms of like the syllables that had more of an inflection. She said that I, a woman, da 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 da. What does that remind you of? That I, a woman, da 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 da. Go and tell the world, Johnny, that I, a man, da, 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 da. Like, the Amber Stans have been trying forever to argue that in that audio, she's not saying, I, Johnny Depp, a man, when in fact, that is the exact phraseology and inflection that she uses in her speech patterns. I, a woman. I just want to point that out. Because it is absolutely the case that in that one of those last conversations where she was basically threatening Depp and she was telling him basically what she was planning. That's the subtext of that, or really the overtext of it was her in that other audio, not the ones that I played for you, but you know what I'm talking about. One of their audios toward the end when they were splitting up, and she says, "Tell the world, Johnny. Tell them, yeah, I, Johnny Depp, a man, I was abused." That's absolutely what she was saying, and she was letting him know that people would not believe him as a male victim. A male victim of domestic violence. But anyway, okay. So I want to go through a bit more on the text, and then I'm going to go to your comments. But 1 second. It is kind of getting weird in here with the light. Sorry. Okay. I mean, there's so many things here. I just want to see if there's. Oh, and by the way, Rocky, Raquel Pennington. I mean, I didn't realize that Raquel Pennington had said in a deposition that she and Amber stopped being friends because Amber hit her. That's just one of those things. Look, there's so much information in this. There's so much in this bag of craziness that some of it flew right past me, and I really didn't realize that. But someone pointed out the other day that she and Raquel Pennington, her BFF or spiritual advisor, as she used to call Raquel, her spiritual advisor, they had a falling out because she hit Raquel said she hit her. Of course, she also, as we know, there's violence rampant among her friends, right? Because Io had hit Raquel as well and had been given the moniker I Slap Rocky or whatever. I mean, these people are all deranged, frankly. Okay, I'm gonna get off Becky's comments. We're gonna go back to the main thread. But good job to you, Becky, if you see this. That was a great list. Just a girl, my top points that these are the things Amber lied about, that she's never assaulted an intimate partner. She did. that she had to fund her own legal bill, that she was ever scared of JD, that she was ever controlled by JD, that she had any of the injuries she claimed, that she didn't want and didn't get any of his money. That, I mean, that will always be a giant lie. When she said, I donated the 7 million, we have her on tape. I'm not going to call it up. We have her on tape in the interview. I donated the 7 million. And of course, that was a lie. It was such a lie that the charities were having to try to confront her about whether or not they were going to receive their donations. And so there was that letter by the Children's Hospital basically saying, so is this a scam? Did you lie to us? Are you going to give us this money? Because you haven't. And then, of course, it turns out that the little bit that the ACLU got from her, Elon Musk ended up paying, of course, back when he was in her web. What else? What else? The night she went on Jimmy Kimmel after claiming that she was beaten, when you can look at Jimmy Kimmel and you can say that there's no way in hell that we're seeing bruises there and all the movement of her face and she's doing all this stuff. You know, we've all seen the video. Most of my disbelief came from comparing her statements to the ones in the UK. There are too many inconsistencies to cover, but I did a thread or two. But yes, of course, you go back to the people love to talk about the UK trial and the UK verdict. Well, let's go back and let's actually see all of the amended statements that she had to make in the UK trial, all of the things that she messed up, lied about, that forensically she could not have experienced or suffered the injuries verbally described and just dab some concealer or makeup on the bruises to make it all disappear. This is really significant, and we've talked about it a bit in relation to Australia, but the fact that if you listen to all of her testimony on the stand and all the things that she's attested to over the years, it basically creates a picture of Johnny Depp just constantly not only beating her to a pulp, but engaging in the most extreme acts of sadism. You know, I did a video on my channel where I interviewed Marilyn Manson's former assistant who was present Thanksgiving night at the party in 2015 with Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, where when Amber Heard claims that Johnny Depp was in a horrible abusive mood and later he beat her up, stuck a bottle in her. I mean, horrible things. And of course, you know, you look at the video from that night or you listen to what the assistant said in the video in her interview with me. And of course, it was completely the opposite situation. And Amber Heard was in a great mood and was drinking and being very actually kind of weird and overly familiar with Manson's assistant. But anyway, but Amber describes Johnny Depp sexually assaulting her with a bottle. Was it a broken bottle either? Someone remind me in the comments, but whatever it was, it is such an insane method of assaulting someone that there would be tremendous, you would have internal damage. You would have to go to the hospital for that stuff. What is up with this woman? Yes, who will take pictures of mirrors and staged looking drug scenes, but just can't find a way to document any of these much more significant injuries that she's asserting to. No, it's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm going to list off some more things. The 2 identical pictures of spilled wine for 2 different dates. That was part of Amber Heard's evidence. Or yes, the staged drug photo. Don't have time to go into it, but there was that photo that was purporting to show us, you know, the depths of Johnny Depp's drug use and drug problems. But people who looked at the photo found it was clearly staged. Issues with the photo. This phone call. She was talking about how her attorney told her she'd be evicted. They told me 21 days. That's why they told me 21 days. That's why I did that. That's why I did that. Listen to her arguing with Johnny Depp. I'm almost done. I know that we all know this stuff, but
21 days. That Laura Walker had proposed that I leave, not proposed, I'm sorry, said I would have to leave. I'd be kicked out, be evicted. So Rock and Josh and everybody evicted within 21 days.
No, but I told you. Last time we spoke, I told you that you were fine. You stay there 2, 3, 4 months, whatever. Just figure it out. We'll figure it out. You stay there. You be.
I thought that too.
That be in your home. Be in your home.
No, I thought that too.
What is so fascinating here is that this is after she's already started to drag Johnny Depp through the mud publicly. And he is still showing the patience of Job with her and having this calm conversation. I mean, how hard, I would have to struggle so hard not to say, you fucking bitch. What? You have just ruined me in the media. You've just ruined my reputation. You've endangered my career. And you're giving me this BS about you were afraid you'd be evicted when you knew that I was telling you over and over that that wouldn't happen. Of course, that was just her lie to him. It wasn't she was afraid of being evicted. She was just trying to maneuver for the best extortive position that she could find. And yes, I like your comments, psychological projectionist. Even in Justice Nicol, even the judge in the UK trial did not believe some of these sexual assault lies. Oh, man. What else? The bruise kit seen on the table and her picture of Johnny Depp exhausted on a couch with ice cream all over it. The knife on the bed on her picture of a damaged bed corner. Photo shoot of her with no makeup, according to the photographer, and no bruises, only after a broken nose and ribs. Isaac Baruch's testimony, her neighbor, who testified that on a day when she was supposed to be busted up by Johnny, that he saw her in the face, up close, no makeup on, and she had gorgeous, untouched, porcelain, unbruised skin. So look, you can check out the link. If people are still interested by this point, I don't want to spend the rest of the time that we have here just reading over this, but if people are still interested at this point, go to my page, scroll down, find the link, but all of this information is there. So I think that where we're at, hold on a second. I think that where we're at is that the media really are hoping that people were not as well versed in this as some of us have been, or that people have just forgotten. People do forget. I had forgotten a lot of these details, to be honest with you. And it wasn't until, because of Alexei Mostros, I went back and started rereading and re-listening to these audios that the full extent of how crazy this woman was and how diabolical dawned on me yet again. And I know that Alexei Mostros claims in his podcast that he's not interested in guilt. He says that again and again, by the way, in the podcast. He says, I'm not interested in guilt. I'm not interested in who's guilty or who's right or whether the jury's verdict was right. I'm just interested in whether it was fair. And the argument that Alexei Mostros then makes explicitly, this is exactly a quote from him, is that the verdict is that an innocent woman or a victim, in fact, he calls her a victim was dragged through the mud by a bot campaign funded by perhaps Saudi Arabia, perhaps Russia, perhaps Thailand, perhaps Spain. What were some of the others, right? Whatever. He gets kind of loosey-goosey with that. Sometimes he focuses on one country, then he focuses on another, and then he's like, well, it's all these places, but it's a nefarious bot campaign. But his basic premise, though, he keeps saying, is that a victim was dragged through the mud and was then given an unfair trial by jurors who were poisoned by these social media bots. Well, that thesis is only valid, first of all, if there was a bot campaign, which I know a lot of people are already discrediting that online, but I don't even care about that. The thesis is only valid if she was an innocent victim. And so Alexei Mostros can claim that he doesn't care about the truth in this case, and he doesn't care who was really right or who was really at fault or if the jury really came to the right conclusion. But his entire argument, his entire thesis rests on an assumption that a victim was unfairly punished and dragged through the mud and that she received an unjust verdict because of a bot campaign. So he's being disingenuous with his argument. And I just want to remind people that despite all the media misinformation that you've been hearing, that there were many, 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 many compelling reasons to believe Johnny Depp and to disbelieve Amber Heard. And I appreciate your comment as well. I just read it, Dan, about the fact that it's probably the most compelling argument to make is that there was never any evidence of or indications of Johnny Depp assaulting Amber, but we have all of these other indications, including on the audio and including his own medical records with the finger, we have indications that he was the victim of violence. And so I invite people to listen to the full unedited audios and hear some craziness. I want us to go out with one last thing, and then I'm going to shut this down. I appreciate all your comments. I'm going to go back and look through them, see if there's anything that I want to bring out or that I want to highlight when I put together the smaller video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this stream and I'm going to cut out the stuff and edit it that I think is less important and kind of repackage it together so it'll hit a little bit harder. And, taking out some of my, as Amber Heard would say, non sequiturs, or going into less relevant directions. But anyway, that's what I'm going to do. I really appreciate you watching. I appreciate your comments. Again, I appreciate your support. This is something that I know a lot of people have moved on from, but I do think it's important every now and then, particularly when the media bring it up, to just remind people, hey, no, this is still the truth. It's still the truth, no matter how they try to repackage it. It's like an Orwellian novel where they try to destroy the past, but the past, it is still true. So I want to bring us out here with one final video. I have to go to my playlist. By the way, I do have a huge playlist of Johnny Depp Amber Heard videos. If any of you, for any reason, do want to relive all of that craziness, I, like a lot of people, made a lot of videos on that. It's just but it's interesting. And I do think too, I want to reiterate, I do think too, what's going on is that the media have realized belatedly, as I've said, they've realized belatedly that they were late on this and that it had a huge social impact. And so they're trying really, really hard to rewrite a narrative because they know what an impact it has had. So, and somebody was asking earlier, where do you get these audios? If somebody wants to put a link to the website where all of these audios are still stored, I'll have to look it up. Someone sent it to me. Laura Bockov sent it to me, and a couple of others, a link to the website that still has all of these court released audios. I don't have it at the moment, but if someone wants to find it and post it, or I'll find it later and I'll add it in the comments. Okay. One second. I'm going to find this video. I'm going to get our last comments and then we'll close it down. There was one thing I wanted you to hear though. Here we go. All right. So any comments I didn't see already? Let me see if there's anything on PayPal. If you want to tip me afterward for this, again, my links are below. And yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dwayne. Thank you, Lisa Carly, as always. Thank you for all of the super chats and all of the comments. And so this is what and again, thank you also to my mods. I forgot to thank you last time. I saw Vanessa in there. I saw Laura B. I saw Rebel Bird. I'm not sure if HA was there or not. I did this at the last minute. And so I didn't want the mods to feel like they had to jump on, but thank you. Always appreciated. Okay. So this is where I want to take us out with. This is one of my videos from, I don't know, a year or two ago. And I think it really brings home what we've been trying to say. All right. All right. Okay, here we go, everybody. See y'all later.
So we took this trip to promote his movie. I went with him. We got in an argument in the hotel room. It broke my heart. Broke my heart. I wanted to marry him so bad. This is the man I love.
Did Johnny give you that bruise on your face? Did Johnny beat you up?
Stop.
Did Johnny brutalize you?
Stop.
Amber?
I remember hating. And you perpetuate the fight. You perpetuate it when you run away. You start it when it could just be a petty argument. And you make it not a petty argument because you run away.
Avoid fights. And by the way...
Yeah, let's be perfect.
And by the way...
Why don't we be perfect? Why don't we just live in make-believe? Go fucking suck my dick, you fucking cowardless, ballless piece of shit. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this. But I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you.
You can't
I don't know
deck
what the motion of my actual hand was. But you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
You ever punch Johnny Depp with a closed fist in the history of your relationship?